lining and overall health. We would love to know where everybody is joining us from today. Are you still working from home? Drop us a comment and let us know where you are at. If you are ready to get started, drop the word GUT, G-U-T, into the chat, and we are going to send you FDN's 3-step guide to getting real results for you and your clients. Welcome to the Health Coach Tip Tuesday show, where every week we share tips, tools, and resources for health coaches and professionals so that you can confidently solve your clients' health issues and grow your career as a health coach or professional. I am your co-host and FDN course counselor, Piper Gibson, and as some of you know the man next to me, this is Reed Davis, founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, and he is here to share his deep knowledge and expertise. How are you, Reed?
Fantastic, thank you. Always good to be here with you on Tuesday.
Yes, awesome. I love Health Coach Tip Tuesday. We always get some fantastic information. If you are ready to get started, Reed, let's give these health coaches their tip for the week. We hear about gut health every day, and there's so much information on the internet. So I really cannot wait to dig into this topic. Reed, tell me, what are 3 things that people want to know when they are struggling with their health and they are looking for a health coach?
Well, you're looking for a health coach because you probably tried a bunch of other stuff already. Maybe you've been to a physician with your complaints, and because your blood work was normal, or was, within range to some extent, that doctor said you're not sick enough, at least for him yet. Doctors have their own backyard. So the first thing is to realize that you may not have a medical condition. There's dysfunction. It's technically termed subclinical. So you may just be subclinical. Clinical means you've crossed the threshold. Now you got stuff that's out of whack. And now that's your ticket into the clinic to do clinical work, which is usually drugs or surgery, So doctor then looks at a lab and goes, oh, look, found something. And here's your medication to try to change the numbers. So number one thing I would say is that, you really don't want to go in that backyard or play in that sandbox, of medical conditions. So the idea would be to stop, really take good stock, hire a health coach who knows what they're doing, hire someone that can get clinical data. And even if it's subclinical, it's clinical. It's what I mean is it's data. I said clinical data. I just meant data.
Fantastic. I know that people.
Not the character of Star Trek either.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Not my favorite character on Star Trek either.
Data.
Data.
When we are looking at the roles and responsibility of the intestinal lining, one of the unique things that FDN teaches is hidden stressors. So how can infections or infestation be a common source of stress?
Well, almost everything going on today is chronic stress related, except for the coronavirus. There, I said it. So there are some ass-kicking viruses out there that you better be really healthy, or they're going to get. So that's the whole. This is why we say health coaching is reaching it's having its day now, because we're the ones who keep people healthy. All these sort of subclinical conditions are things that we specialize in. If you're just tired and fatigued, and maybe you just have, a little allergy or sensitivities to things, you're moody or irritable, or you just feel out of sorts, you get a brain fog, foggy thinking, a little anxiety, a little depression, a little of this and a little of that. Just little bits of a bunch of stuff can make for a very unhappy life. But again, you go to a physician, blood work looks fine. We want you to know it's not all in your head. And when we look at what's ailing you, it's what are the stressors and hidden stressors, and what have they done over the years to your body to break it down. I read in 2001 in a Natural Health magazine, that was a long time ago, that 50% of all illness was caused by stress, and that 80% of all doctor's visits were somehow related to stress and chronic stressors. So that's when, again, almost 20 years ago, I started trying to become an expert in stress. What I found out is it's not all that you don't like your job or your kids or your spouse. You know, there's a lot of other types of stress, and a lot of them are physical aches and pains and built up injuries and trauma to the spine or other areas. And hello. And then there's also the chemical and biochemical stress. Your body makes toxins out of, in the metabolic processes. There's things that need to be detoxified or excreted, sequestered and excreted, and these kind of things. All of that is stressful. Stress does what? What's the main stress hormone, Piper?
Cortisol.
What does cortisol do to secretory IgA?
Inflammation.
It lowers. It's inflammation. It lowers your SIG-A. SIG-A is your main defense. It's the most abundant immunoglobulin in your body. And guess where most of that's made? In the gut. It's called secretory IgA. And so the gut is, a really huge part of the immune system. Now, this is stuff, again, it's available on the internet, but it's obscure. It's usually they're trying to sell you something like a supplement or a therapy of some sort or something like that. So, I like selling too. I'm selling a course that would teach you everything you need to know about all this stuff. But the idea, to answer your question, is, stress affects the gut because it really diminishes your immune system, and most of that's in the gut. So then what? Then you're susceptible to all kinds of stuff. And whatever comes down the pipes, if you're not ready for it, can really create more stress. It can become a bigger part of a bigger picture. And then we call it the metabolic chaos cascade. You start to dysfunction all over your body. Cells, tissues, organs, systems, they're all connected to each other. And they're all easily influenced. So some maybe not as easily as other parts. Some organs are really sensitive to any, like to light. That's an interesting type of stress, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You wouldn't think light as stress, but if you're asleep, it's supposed to be dark. So light would create a form of stress. It's sending little signals to little teeny tiny organs or sensors in your head, and it's telling you, oh, it's not nighttime, it's daytime. You got to be up. You got, and that's messed up. That's an interesting type of stress. We don't even look at it as a stress.
Hey, Becca, hey, Paula, thank you for joining us today. Reed and I are talking about the roles and responsibility of intestinal health. Make sure to drop the word gut into the chat, and we are going to send you FDN's 3-step guide. And we would also love to know where you're joining us from. And Reed loves to answer questions. So if you guys have questions for Reed, definitely pop those in the chat too, and he will get to those. Reed, in the course, we talk a little bit about having a weak host. What happens when you have a weak host, especially when we're looking at the intestinal lining and overall health?
When you have a what?
A weak host.
A weak host. Yeah. Well, it's the age-old argument between vitalism and the germ theory. So is it the germ or is it the host? And certainly there are germs, but some people are more resistant to them than others. So until you get into something really virulent, like Ebola or something, it's the host. So you can't, look at today's pandemic. Who's it affecting? Who's it affecting the most? And who's not affecting at all, hardly.
Yeah.
There's a good argument being made that we should not have and I'm not making this argument because I'm still studying the situation, but there's a good argument being made that we probably should only have sequestered the weak hosts. Let the rest of us sort it out because we have good immunity, and no one wants to get infected, but if you do, your body would sort it out for itself, and then you'd be immune. We could actually perhaps have already had herd immunity if we'd have just all sort of passed it around and just sequester the weak people. Now what they have to do, what would have been nice, this is armchair quarterbacking on Monday, of course, but if we had tests where everybody could get tested, then if you have it, you could have been sequestered so you didn't pass it around, and now it's probably too late for that. Or maybe we could still do it partially. I have kits right here. I have corona test kits sitting right over there where I'm looking right now.
Oh, wow.
And I bought them for me and my neighbors, but they decided they didn't want to get tested. They're like, yeah, that's okay.
Well, I would love to know. My husband thinks that he actually had it already. So when we're going to get our hands on a kit and we're going to find out, because inquiring minds want to know around here. We like to test, not guess.
Yeah, well, I'm debating doing one myself. I don't think I've been exposed, and I'll probably do it out of curiosity sooner or later here.
See, that's what you've instilled in me is test, don't guess. So now we want to know what's going on.
Yeah, I'll send you one of these.
Oh, what if your neighbors decide they want to do them? Thank you, Reed. Okay.
Well, actually, I talked to him this morning, and he said he wants to do the stool test. He doesn't want to shove this thing up his nose.
Ooh.
It's got to go in pretty far.
It does. My mom.
And she
said it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's get back to our topic at hand. Let's talk about how the FDN opt-in self-care model can help when we're dealing with intestinal gut health.
Well, what you're talking about there is when you say opt-in, I mean it's your choice. And what I like to say is you can opt in now to a self-care program that will be anti-aging. It'll help you ward off diseases, really give you a full, robust, protected life to the best that it can be. You can opt into that now, or you can get forced in later to the disease care model where there's no choice. You're going to a doctor because you feel that bad, and you're going to be subject to them and their methods. So choice is yours. So you can opt in now to learning to take care of yourself so that you build up really good, strong immunity for all these weird things out there, including gut health. I mean, there's, some would say there's nothing more important in terms of your immune system. We have our outside skin that protects us. If something lands on you, unless it bites you and gets into the bloodstream that way or something, or it has some ability to migrate transdermally through the skin into your bloodstream, it's probably, you could just wash it off. That's what soap and water are for. That's why they keep saying, wash your hands, wash your hands. A guy said the other day, okay, I've been washing my hands. When can I actually take a shower? I said, dude, don't listen to the news anymore. But so anyway, so wash your hands. Yeah, why? Soap and water works. It's really good. But it's hard to soap and water the inside. That's where you just need a really good, strong immune system. The inside is like your second skin. It's called the mucosal barrier. Now, this is pretty elementary stuff, but it's fascinating stuff. It's interesting stuff. And if you don't know it, there's a whole wide world of physiology and anatomy and biochemistry, all taught in lay terms. I try not to use 6-syllable words, mostly because I can't pronounce them. But plain language is the way to talk about this stuff, and that's what you'll get.
I agree. And I think that people, when you are working with them as a health coach, as an FDN, I think they appreciate the plain language because you can explain it to them in plain English and it's easy to understand. And then they go, aha, that makes sense. How come no one ever told me that before? So yeah, that's what.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was in a clinic in San Diego. I was the patient educator for 8 years. And so that means I had to explain things so that they could get it. Because in that office, it wasn't a medical office, it was a wellness center with chiropractic and acupuncture. We had a DO, we had a podiatrist, we had massage therapists, and I was the nutritionist. And, we had to teach people what to do in between visits. So that's another major difference between one backyard and the other backyard. One backyard is here, take this, and I'll see you in 3 months. Take this 3 times a day or twice a day or whatever the frequency and dosage is. And I'll see you in 3 months and see what happens. Gee, God, hope you're better. And really their measurement of better might just be the test results. Like, oh, look at these numbers. They look great now. I'm a genius. And yet you could still feel like crap and you could have fixed nothing. All you've done is manipulate, block something or stimulate something to change the numbers on the paper. Where I worked and for the education I had to do was teach people what to do between visits. That was what was most important, considering all the variables. Where do you live? What do you do? How much, what are you eating? What kind of sleep patterns do you have? How much exercise do you get? And how much stress do you have? And what kinds of stress? And how can we mitigate that? What kind of supplements you taking? How are you supporting your immune system, your digestive system, your hormones, and so on and so on. So it was as that kind of educator that I learned to, that's how I created FDN. Seeing what people did. The ones who were successful, the ones who followed instructions and gave us good feedback so we could modify, and then we both would learn from that.
Well, that's the process that has made the FDN course so great, and so many people have been successful, and so many clients have had their lives changed because you took that experience and turned it into this awesome program. So we all thank you for that.
I couldn't help myself.
Well, we appreciate it. When should a health coach consider a GI pathogen screening?
Well, there should be a lot of fingers pointing at bugs, that you have an infection. I mean, one thing I don't approve of is just running it for the hell of it to see if you catch something. I did that once on a person 20 years ago, close to it. And the doctor I was working with said, well, I couldn't quite figure out what I was looking at, at the time, and didn't look like much to me. And he said, no, this is, there's nothing here. And he said, why'd you run this test? I said, well, I thought I would catch something. He goes, what, like you were on a fishing trip? You thought you'd catch something? You just spent $300 of that person's money and you wasted it. What led you to run that test? And he made me really, really think about what we call clinical correlation. Now, you took my course, you know that I'm hell on wheels when it comes to clinical correlation. There better be some really significant clinically correlating factors or symptoms or signs before you waste money on a fishing trip. This is the last fishing trip I took, and hopefully you guys all have learned from my mistake, and that's a lot of what the FDN course is. Just here's what I learned the hard way. I ran thousands of labs on thousands of people, so that you don't have to.
Hey, Chip, welcome.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, and I think that makes a big difference. And I think when people see that clinical correlation, when you can talk to them about how things align, they have that aha moment. Like, oh, wow, it totally makes sense. So yes, I love clinical correlation. I love it. Do you have?
Yeah,
Well, go ahead, Reed.
no, it's a must. I mean, that's the whole ball game, because sometimes it's your clinical assessment. Now, I don't even like that word anymore, clinical, because I don't work in a clinic anymore, and most of us work out of the houses, so you're not really in a clinic, okay? But it's called clinical correlation because it matches up. The test results explain why a person feels so bad, like, or a big part of it, or some chunk of it. There's some piece of the puzzle. You might need 3 or 4 pieces of the puzzle. That's why we run saliva test, a urine test, a stool test, a blood test, and all that gets correlated with an individual. It matters who the individual is, because only that can explain why those things are appearing as they do on paper. It's how you've lived for the most part. How do you live yourself into these feelings that you're having, or think about your appearance you don't like, the way you look or feel? How do you live yourself into that? I ask myself that every day when I look in the mirror. How did this happen? but the point being that you lived yourself into what's on the paper too. And so you can live yourself out of it. You got to just change the behavior, and that's how you got there. That's how you get out of it.
Absolutely. Reed, do you have a #1 tip, tool, or takeaway you want to share today before we close out?
Well, does it have to be about health coaching?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
No, I'm kidding. Hey, I say this almost every other Tuesday, just to get up and try to do some good in the world, and start with yourself. Charity begins at home. Get up and be nice to yourself. Be thankful, be grateful. Do not be hard on yourself, unless you just did something really bad, which most of us haven't, so don't be hard on yourself. Get up, drink some water, use the bathroom, make your bed, and go in the kitchen.
Well,
I'll
do.
I'm going to say that charity begins at home. That's my tip of the day.
Fantastic. I'll do the rest.
And Chip mentions here normal blood test scores aren't good enough. It's Ellie Cullen, good book. Cully, good book. Yeah.
That is a good book. I have that book too, Chip. It is a good book. Thank you guys for joining us today. We really love for you to join us on Tuesdays for Health Coach Tip Tuesday. I know I always get a fantastic takeaway. I am not going to be making my bed, but I will do the rest of those things. I will take care of myself. But thank you guys for joining us. Drop the word gut into the chat if you were watching the replay, and we are going to send you FDN's 3-step guide. We will be back here next week. We are going to dig a little bit deeper into the GI testing, the GI pathogen testing. So thank you, Reed, for joining me. It was great to have you as usual.
Piper, you're awesome. Thank you, and thanks to the folks. It's good to see all these folks.
It is, always. Well, thank you guys. We'll see you back here, same time, same place next week.